afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to be diving into Total Customer Experience, or TCE, a concept that's becoming central for organisations aiming to thrive in a customer-first world. And today I'll have a focus on enriched messaging as a step of how you can actually implement some of the steps that we go through. So, what does TCE mean? TCE reflects the holistic perception that customers develop about a brand or an organisation through every interaction along their journey, from initial awareness to post-purchase support. It isn't just about customer service, but it's about those accumulations of all the different points that you want someone to go through when they're trying to contact you. So, is that through phone? Is that through face-to-face? Is that through in a shop? Is that through kind of other chat aspects? And it's really kind of how we handle these different point of contacts to create that kind of cohesive and consistent experience, which is where kind of TCE comes in, and you're starting to go, right, we now know that we've got a seamless, personalised communication across the different channels. We've got that cohesion across those channels, and we're now able to look at how we start to exceed customer expectations. Because I think we all tend to start on a slightly lower level, which is, what do we do? And then it's like, well, this is what's expected of us. How can we now step up and maybe be a bit more proactive in reaching out? Predictive, as they were talking about there. So an example of that was working with the Housing Association around September time. Are we getting in contact with people to test their boilers before the first frost comes? Because otherwise what you get is everyone phones you when the first frost comes to say, my boiler's not working. But actually, if you're predicting when that might come, suddenly the experience becomes very positive. Oh, they've reached out, they've solved my problem because I've tested it and the boiler's not working. They've come in, they fixed it, and I wake up and it's a lovely cold and frosty morning, but my heating's on. And suddenly you are the good guys. You are the one that people are really wanting to kind of communicate and start to interact with. So that is done around that controlling of the message and the delivery, and really taking that journey of, is it something that we want someone to start themselves? Is it something that we need to start for someone? Or actually, is there a trigger through the back office system that actually should enable us to not have that initial first human touch point, but it's a machine that is starting that touch point to go, this needs to happen. This is here's some information that we think that you might need. And that's how we can kind of start to move forward. And then we start to look at how can we avoid those pitfalls in customer journey design. Quite often we look at the external viewpoints. So what are our customers thinking? How can they contact us? They're telling us they want to do this. We think they want to contact us like that. But actually, it's really difficult to then go, well, actually as an organisation, how can we control that? How can we enhance that journey with a human? How can we that human value is so important. But if we've got 15 different contact methods, can we control that? Can our back office cope with that? Can our front office cope with that? Or is it just causing us more irritation because our customers are more upset because they expect a web chat to be answered instantly and it's not, so they go off and they'll give you a phone call or they'll send you an email in. And then we're starting to look at, are the different kinds of communication helping on that journey, or are they hindering that journey? So, a positive total customer experience requires that consistency and that personalisation and that seamless communication across all of those channels. And think of it as the entire experience rather than those isolated touch points. And I think that's where, if we start to look, and I've been doing a lot with a number of people around, okay, so if you start here, if I ring you up and an agent starts the journey for someone, is that the same experience that I can also do if I start on a web chat? Can I start to go through that same experience and update that information that I need to do? Because if an agent's doing it differently, then suddenly at some point there's not going to be that cohesion with that journey, and another touch point is needed, and another entry, another contact is needed to resolve that issue. So it's that controlled engagement versus where human value can be added. And I'll go through this and give you a good example around the kind of new kind of messaging that we can do. So, too much choice, not enough engagement. Do you know how your customers want to communicate with you? It's very easy for us to go, we think they want to do this. And as some of the previous speakers have said, kind of, actually, the more choice you give people, it can cause you an awful lot more distraction than it can, because you're not necessarily pulling that journey through. Email is an example. Email is the second largest communication tool behind phone. And if you take the industry standards, it's 5 to 6 minutes of an average handling time. Now, we're talking to organisations that are getting 2, 3, 4, 10,000 emails a week or a month. So if you can then start to look at kind of, actually, how is that journey done? Because quite often it can be quite a slow resolution. I email you in, please can you come and do this? I need some more information, here's that more information, but that might be 4 or 5 days because you haven't responded to it, it takes time for the customer to come back. So is that the best way for the customer to communicate? Or are you looking at how you can control that? So actually they come in and you bounce back to them. Here's some places where you can go and do it yourself. Here's some information that you need, or here's the information that we need to help you. And then you're starting to look at, does that then need to go to a person to do it? Or can you integrate into those back office systems to trigger those processes that are going to go on? And the other tricky thing about email is quite often it's multi-request. And this is where the trickiness about that total experience comes in. There might be 3 aspects within an email. You might solve the first one really quickly and you might get to the second one, but actually it's that third request that is the most important to the customer, but you've got no way of identifying that. Or, and we worked with a couple of people where I can't find this information because it's not on X, Y, or Z. And an advisor, I won't use agent anymore, I'll always use advisor from now on. They might report back, oh, the reason is because someone wants to find this information out. And actually very rarely does that second bit get reported up the chain to make that change to a website or an app or whatever, which is the kind of, this is the reason why we're getting all this communication in. We did a whole load of work with trail finders, and actually we reduced some of their contact in some areas by just over 80% because they then highlighted where you could find the information. And that's all people want. WhatsApp is another example. Actually, for an asynchronous conversation, and to take it away from that instantness of web chat, WhatsApp is good, but there are those barriers to it. It's more of a reactive one. It's by design more about the customer starts it for you to then react back, because otherwise you've got to get all your templates sorted and it's not selling. And what they don't want is your Papa John's pizza text message that come out saying 2 for 1. That's not what they want WhatsApp to be. They want it to be more that conversation that is started by the customer to get to the resolution that they want. So, and this is seamlessly borrowed from the autonomous custom research, and I've seen Dr. Millard speak a number of times this year, and I've taken different parts from it each time. And this I thought was one of the most interesting slides that there was, which is type versus satisfaction. And I think we're all very good at understanding the type of conversation, the type of communication method that people come in as, but we're not necessarily good at understanding why, and actually, are they happy with it? Do they like it? Is that communication method the best communication method for solving it? And then it goes back to the understanding why they're preferring that. Text message, for instance, the satisfaction rate of a text message, it's probably due because it's mainly a proactive approach. You're going, remember this, your appointment's here, do you need this? So you're being proactively outreaching to them, and it's like, oh, that's positive. Do you know what? I forgot my dentist appointment. I will go tomorrow. So that's where that can come. But then that's where the role of the analytics comes in, that kind of Jonathan was talking about earlier, to really understand the satisfaction across the different communication methods. Because you might be offering up a web chat, for example, which isn't actually helping to resolve the issues, because that needs to be transferred into a call, because actually it's quite complex. Or it's the crisis, like Dr. Miller was talking about earlier, the different kind of communication. If you're finding it's more crisis mode, you need to be thinking about how can you seamlessly get them through to deliver that experience where they actually end up at the point where they're speaking to someone, rather than banging their head against a computer screen because the bot's sending them round and round and round in a circle. And then you can get those Why are the customers contacting us? Are our contact methods aligned with our customer journey goals? Are we collecting information that enables proactive outreach or proactive resolution? So you can collect that information before it gets to them. And they were talking earlier again, is that information being passed through to the agent to then be able to resolve it, rather than having that break in, here's your information, now I need to go back through your ID and V again because it hasn't been passed through. So these are all bits that we can help with the analysing that we can do. And that analysis, kind of for Britannic, again, we can help you. Give us some emails. I've done it with Ashford down here. So we've been through that process, and actually, I think we both learned an awful lot about what's working and why the contacts are coming in. So it is worth something that's looking to explore. But then we look at SMS. So SMS is really popular as a channel, and the satisfaction is great, but there are some challenges to it. SMS is 32 years old this year, and really, it hasn't changed that much. You can now actually type more than 160 characters, but it still has to mould the messages into one, whereas rather it will stop halfway through a word, and then you get two messages from the same thing. But there's still that challenge. It's quite one way, and although it has a 98% open rate, there's not really that much about the engagement with it because it's not meant to be. It's that one-way communication. I'm telling you something, bang, there we go. So we've gone through the character constraints. You're looking at that one-way limitation, but the big thing at the moment, the really big thing, is the security concerns that there are. And it is quite vulnerable to someone cloning you or pretending to be you or telling you you've got a package that needs to be delivered and please click on this link. And we're told about not to click on the URL. Don't click. If you don't know where it's from, if you're not sure about it, don't click on it. So that stops the customer journey dead, in a way. They might open it, but they're not necessarily engaging with it afterwards. So the result is that SMS, while effective for quick alerts, can actually be a little bit impersonal in some ways about how you are really delivering that experience. Now, these are all taken from my phone, and you can see there's a whole variety here around kind of why SMS is kind of being degraded around the security and the fraud aspect. They never click on the URL. Kind of, are you really going to try and make a payment anymore through SMS? You've got to take a little bit of a leap of faith that you know exactly where it's coming from, and it is. Otherwise, I'm always very hesitant. Do I really want to click on this? Do I actually know where that is going? Yeah, it's impersonal. It's very flat. Yeah, I was speaking to a council recently, and they were saying that after their SMSs go out, actually they get a spike in income and communication to find out whether, is this real? You sent us a text, is this really you that sent it out? Well, actually, there are some very, very easy ways, and I'll go on to those in a moment, that you can move through these and actually kind of support the recognition that this is you. I can't walk around, which I normally would, to point it out, but you can see, you can't really tell the difference between which ones of those are real and which ones are the scams, because they're not really identifying themselves. And more come through now, and you get the big kind of exclamation mark, oh, are you sure this is real? Well, I assume it is, but can anyone send it with Papa John's on? Can anyone send it with Affinity Water on? Kind of the big one, I think everyone must have had recently, is the PCN parking, because you're thinking, really? Have I parked somewhere that I'm not sure about? But kind of fortunately, you have a look up, and that is a well-known scam now, but you can't really tell the difference between that one and all the rest of the messages there. So that's where you really kind of, actually, is this a good way of trying to build that communication with our customers and our residents if they don't really know it's us? So rather than be hypothetical about kind of how you can do this, I thought I'd bring in an actual example through enriched messaging. And you can see here, to my right, your left, is your classic kind of, there's no real details there, you can't get any attachments, it all looks a bit flat and you're not quite sure. Whereas on the one closest to me, the big thing is the blue tick. That means your number has been registered. But also behind that, you've got all of these details about the company that sent it to you. You can then email with one click. If I time this right, you can go on their websites with one click. And then you can give them a call. So you're encouraging that ease to come through. And actually all you're doing is making it known to your customer that it's you. So it's a very simple step. It's not groundbreaking. You're not sticking loads of AI into anything. All you're doing is identifying yourself to say, do you know what? This is us and this is how we want to help you, or this is what we want to tell you about. You don't have to add anything else in. The smart buttons, etc., they can come as you go, as you realise that journey. The big thing is around making sure that you are branded and your number is registered, because there's partnerships with Google, they're always looking into those different initiatives around anti-spam and all those kind of things. So this is a big thing that is coming, and it's just around the corner. So RCS in a bit more detail. It was first developed by GSM in 2006 and actually was first released in 2008. But there's been quite a few different iterations of it. But the big thing that's happened is that in September, when Apple released iOS 18, RCS is now supported by Apple. So not only is it an Android messaging, what they've realised is that if you've got iMessage and you've got kind of SMS and you've got an Android message and you've got your WhatsApp, there's lots of different types. There's a famous story about it was in the Ryder Cup, where two of the Americans are on Android, the rest are on Apple. They sorted out a night out through iMessage. Two of them didn't go on the night out because they didn't get it. Not great for team cohesion, not a great service. Whereas this now, you're starting to build that in. So it enables branded, interactive, and importantly, asynchronous conversations. And actually, as an organisation, it's a really important part because you have time to breathe with that conversation. You're not under pressure. You're not on the phone under pressure to give an answer. You're not on a web chat under pressure to give that answer straight away. Actually, you have some breathing time, and potentially you can solve it in one handling of that communication, because you can go away and you can find out the answer and you can go back to someone. You're not trying to scrabble around to get the answer while you're talking to them and while you're under that time pressure. So, by registering your number and branding your messages, which Britannic can help you with, you can really kind of start and be involved in that whole security ecosystem that then goes behind RCS, which really starts to make people trust your brand more. So that is that continuous dialogue. And this is where you start to go, if we look at the total customer engagement, where are those points? WhatsApp has started that. WhatsApp has actually changed the communication type quite well, because you do have that. Well, actually, if someone sends me a message at 10 o'clock at night, we can go back to them at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then we can have that conversation throughout the day, and it can be resolved quite nicely, rather than, I tried to contact you, I've missed it, bang, over, I'm now unhappy, I'm going to call you. And that's where it starts to differ. And then you can start to have a look at that kind of proactive nature. When do we send these out? When do we start to kind of, are we going to start this conversation? Is the customer going to start this conversation? Or is the machine going to start this conversation? And you can start to build that flow. And you can start to move on to where you are embedding rich content into it. You don't start like that. You start with branding your messages, but you can get to, and you'll see it later, enriched messages that are basically a brochure through, a repair guide. You can send it through and someone can download it on their phone. So there's all these different aspects that you can start to learn about how you can truly deliver some things from the back office to the front so that people are enabling themselves. So there's a council that's not far from here actually that uses RCS, and they use it around council tax collection, and actually they've seen a massive spike in engagement because it's one touch to go through, it's not a short URL, it's branded so you can see them, and actually so people are picking it up. They've done the marketing around the change that they're going to make, and actually they've seen a really transformative engagement with their residents. And you'll hear with RCS, you'll hear two phrases. It's a bit like WhatsApp and WhatsApp for Business. So RCS is person-to-person messaging, whereas RBM is rich business messaging. It just means that you can start with rich business messaging, you can start that from an application. So rather than it be on someone's phone, you can start it from kind of within a team, so you're not relying on that one person who's in control of that answer, actually it will come into your organisation, a bit like how a web chat might come in or whatever, and you're starting it from there rather than, and as some organisations are still doing, they fall into the WhatsApp trap where there's one phone with WhatsApp on and someone's in control of that. So we're kind of building that out and really starting to develop how you can talk to someone, but also how organisationally you can actually control that and start to understand what the impact is. So a very quick summary of what the difference is. So SMS, obviously, it's there is that limitation. There is no enriched aspect to it. It is great for that appointment style outreach, but that's about it. And the tracking is okay, but you're not really looking at how far that journey goes through. MMS, again, is that bit more, but the multimedia content that you can deliver with it is actually quite minimal in some ways, because the file size has got to be small and you can't do it. There's other aspects. And then you've got RCS that is kind of, is I reckon, going to be 2025's largest uptake. And that's where you can have those the enriched messaging with the kind of the features that deliver what you're trying to say to your customers with its full potential. So there are 3 different types of RCS messaging. There's a branding message, and this is your first step. If you send SMS, then there's no reason for you not to come and speak to myself or John on the desk and go, do you know what, I'm interested in branding our messages. How can you help us? And we can take you through that journey. There's a few forms to fill in, and then suddenly you'll be there and you'll have that lovely logo and blue tick. Yeah, and suddenly who you're communicating with knows it's you. And then you can start to think about, and start that way, because then you can start to see, well, actually, that's been a great impact. Maybe we can go on to a single message, which is more, again, we're reaching out to you, but there are some aspects of which it looks nice, and you can kind of click through, and there's some smart buttons. And then you get into kind of true ultimate app style conversations, which is where you can share documents, you can book tickets, you can share tickets, there's a whole host of aspects that you can do. So rather than the kind of expensive app which you're trying to get someone to log into all the time and update, you can have it in a message, and you can have it in a message that they can then share with someone else. You can, and that's where the difference comes in. You're not relying on someone. You're not getting the phone calls in saying, "Try to log into my app, but I've forgotten my password. Can you help us?" Because it's just creating that confusion. Please, can you update your app? And that kind of, you're then going, the security aspect that I just talked about. Again, if you've registered your number, you get enhanced security, because there are, the tier 1 aggregators are kind of support this, and there's the MEF protection register. So there's all these aspects. Because you've given those details across, it's then very, very hard to defraud the message that is coming. So it starts to give you and your customers that peace of mind. And I talk about security a lot, but actually that more and more spam is degrading the trust that we have in the messaging that's coming through, and actually some brands, because like, who opens any message from Evie now? You get a delivery, you put a package, it might be a true one, it might not be, but are you going to risk opening it? I'm not sure I know anyone that will. So this will take you through the whole journey. So initially you saw first message, just a branding message. And then you're going through that, delivering that personalised part. Here's your ticket. Do you want to put it on your Google Wallet? Yes, I do. And then you're taking them through onto the kind of the final aspect, which is that real brochure style. This is our website, this is our app, this is our everything in one. And you know what? You can pick it out and it's on your phone and you can take it where you want it. So I booked some rugby tickets recently, and I had to book them, and then I had to click on a link in an email to download an app, and then I had to register on that app so they knew who I was, so they could link it back to the email that they'd already sent me to do that. Then I had to go in and download the tickets onto the app, and then I had to get my brother to download the app so I could share the tickets with him. So we do. And you know what? After we go, what are you going to do? You're either going to delete that app, or it'll just sit on your phone for ages and you won't do it. With RCS messaging, I could have got that text message after I booked the tickets. I could have got my ticket or QR code sent through, which I can then save to my Google or my Apple Wallet, and you then can share from there with anyone else that you do. So you're looking at 3 steps to engage a customer rather than your kind of 8, 9, 10 frustration points that you're going, because it's not seamless as you go through. So, quick recap, I'm conscious of time. So, enhanced look and feel, and asynchronous conversation, and that's a big part. Smart action buttons, no more short URLs to really put people off. The personalisation, you can start to kind of create flows behind them. So if I'm looking at a university as an example and I've chosen 3 courses, you can then pick those brochures that you want and personalise the app that's going out to that person. So it's not a sit there and one size fits all. And then, and importantly, there's some really good enhanced analytics behind it where you can start to see where the journey starts, where it breaks down, what the open rates are, what the click-through is. So you get some real in-depth knowledge about why is this working. I talked about the growth. And you can see there that I think potentially, especially with Apple taking it on and all the carriers, by January, February, all the carriers should be supporting it as well. So if you're all looking to kind of, in this room, if you started today, actually by the time you're kind of ready to go live, then it should all be with the carriers. And you can see it's going one way. And people will start to, again, we talked about that expectation earlier. These are the things that people are going to start to expect to happen. Do I know it's you? Are you contacting me? And there are so many different use cases from kind of retail and e-commerce where you're sending the product through to someone. It's not just this is in your cart, click this button to go through to your cart, do it. You're sending people the cart. Do you want to do it? Do you know what? There's also this and this. Kind of, do you need instructions for how to fix your washing machine? Yes, I do. Okay, bang, there you go. Here's your instruction booklet sent through. There's all of those. Banking and finance. There's aspects there around kind of using WhatsApp because it's encryption that some of the ombudsman and the regulators actually don't like around it. So I can start to kind of talk to you and talk to me afterwards. There's a number of different use cases where this is really coming to the forefront. So some things to think about. So you've got a practical example there of how you can kind of go on that journey, but it is, are you using a human-centred design? And human-centred is about not only the customer, but where you as an organisation add that human value. And you enhance that human value. Are you getting the analytics that you need to be able to, and the data, and opening that data up to enable you to know whether you're hitting the goals that you want to do, or whether it's perception? Kind of, what barriers are there? Kind of an app-free approach. What barriers could an app-free approach help you solve? And again, that branding and that recognition, what does that also help you solve? So if you're already sending text messages, there is no barrier to swapping that to a branded message. And as I said earlier, you can either come and see me upstairs, or John's on the stand. Come up, have a quick chat with us, and then what we can do is just kind of over the next few weeks actually give you some more information about kind of what's involved and how we can really move forward. So that's from me. Thank you very much.